You're listening to the Sonny Brown Breakdown. Now, it is time to break it down.
Welcome to episode number 34 of the Sonny Brown Breakdown. In this episode, I talk to Craig Jones. Now, I'm going to be tentatively titling this as the start of season 2, as I had a nice break over the New Year's and we're getting back into things now. So I've already got a bunch recorded, some from last year, and I'll be releasing those in the coming weeks. But in this interview with Craig, we really get into, the professional side of competition grappling in the world today. We, of course, touch on his moving to Puerto Rico, and then after going back to, his big breakout performance in ADCC 2017 and how he then went on an absolute tear teaching seminars and used those to prepare to competition up until moving on to the Danaher Death Squad team and what it's like to train with those guys and have Danaher as that full-time coach and the kind of mythical belief that these guys have in John Danaher's ability. And then also, how he's able to still put out DVDs while training under them and Danaher's use of Japanese terms as well we touch on. Then filming DVDs with Sakuraba, which of course was something I had to bring up. And kind of when we get into the link between professional grappling and sports entertainment and making money in the sport and kind of how those things all mix together in a new way. And then finishing off, we had to bring up the match with Vinny where he broke Vinny's leg and proved that leg locks do in fact work. So it was a great chat. Really appreciate being able to speak to Craig, one of the best guys in the world today. So hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, please give me some feedback. I'm active on Instagram at Sonny Brown Breakdown, and I do have a limited rash guard or pre-sales for a rash guard going on now, and hopefully we'll get some shirts out there this year as well. So give us a follow there. Also check out sonnybrown.net. It's the website, got everything on there. And yeah, if you like it, the 5 stars on iTunes always helps as well. And so with that, now let's go to the podcast. Craig, how are you today, mate?
Yeah, good. Up bright and early so we could coordinate this one. But I'm usually up early anyway, so it's not too bad. How about you?
Appreciate it. It's late here, but I'm usually up late, so it works out well. But it's a good time because it's nice and quiet here for recording. And I guess up early over there is now you're in Puerto Rico, which is probably a big change, right? From, coming from Australia, then you moved to New York or New Jersey, I think, and then now to Puerto Rico. So what's happened? Like what's going on? It seems like a wild move for you guys there.
Yeah, very, very strange move. I honestly, when I first heard about it, Gordon went on vacation to see Mo in Puerto Rico. I think they were talking about some business stuff. And previous to that, me, Ethan, and Taza, Mo brought us out here, but probably like 18 months ago. So Gordon went out, came back, and then immediately started trying to convince John to pack up the whole team and move. And I don't think John would have been interested in doing it whatsoever, except for the fact that COVID was really killing Henzo's gym in New York, or killing the restrictions were killing the competition classes. You know what I mean? Because I guess if you're running a school and only local people can enter and train and stuff, and there's limited numbers, then the competition guys are really like, they're not there paying, you know what I mean? They're not there really supporting the business apart from advertising and stuff. So there was like, I wouldn't say there was tensions, but it was definitely difficult to train as we usually would. We'd have like time restricted classes. And again, we were only allowed in like 15 minutes before. We had to be out of there 15 minutes after. While the gym was actually closed during quarantine, it was fine because we could just sneak in through the back door and there'd only really be guys that teach in privates. But once they opened up the gym in sort of limited numbers, then it became very, very difficult. So that sort of encouraged John to move out here. And then obviously the guys make a lot of money off DVDs. So to move to Puerto Rico, you actually only pay 4% taxes. So of everything you earn, I believe even capital gains and stuff, it's only 4%. So I think the combination of those two things, and we have Mo out here. So Mo was sort of like, Mo's been living out here for a few years. So it was sort of, we had a safety net. It wasn't a complete risk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those were really the main reasons. And everyone really wanted to get out. Like New York's a great place to visit, but I don't think it's a good place to live at all. Like obviously, unless you're like a millionaire living in like Tribeca or something in a real comfortable neighborhood, it's pretty horrible to live there. Like I've moved to Puerto Rico and I've got like a 3-bedroom right on the ocean, and it's the same price per month as my studio apartment in Hoboken, which is like up 4 flights of stairs, like a shit apartment. I'm pretty sure there were rats in there and stuff. So a great change.
So that makes sense. Then it's kind of a bit of like a perfect storm of the crazy global conditions that things of, the team in New York moves up and moves to Puerto Rico. Now, are you able to get in on that good tax break? Are those incentives there for an Australian overseas, or is that?
I'm still, unfortunately, awaiting my visa. So, like, I think technically I'm here illegally right now.
All
like,
right.
as soon as it should process pretty soon, but like, I have to do a biometrics appointment. But obviously, you have to go in physically for that. And with the US, like, COVID's crazy, so all the offices are shut down. So I think I have to wait to get my social security number, and then I'm entitled to that. So, I mean, compared to the Australian tax rate, 4% is going to be pretty damn nice.
Hey, the incentives are there for a reason, I guess. They want people there. So
yeah, that's for sure.
So I mean that's one move then that you've made recently, but obviously going from Australia to New York to begin with would have been a big move. And I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking way back, like one of your original Instagram handles maybe was Jiu-Jitsu Travels or something like that way back in the day. Or so was that always kind of your goal to use Jiu-Jitsu as a means to travel? Or
yeah, pretty much. Just like my goals always just grew with what I felt I could accomplish at the time. So I know, like, when I started Jiu-Jitsu, it was like, oh, if I get good enough, I can open a school and not have to work a full-time job. And then, like, in terms of competition goals, it was always, oh, could I be the best guy in the state, best guy in the country? And then just kept raising those goals. So it's pretty much the same thing. Actually, Jiu-Jitsu traveling was pretty much all I was doing. I would go into a camp somewhere. Like, I've trained basically everywhere, like Marcelo's, Atos, Drysdale's, Fight Sports. I visited everywhere, basically doing mini camps and then competing. But I had to change the Instagram name. It was after ADCC 2017 where I sort of had that breakout performance. I remember Andre Galvao came up to me and he goes, "Man, you got to change your Instagram name. No one can find you." So that was sort of what made me switch it over.
You got to consider the branding. It makes sense. I mean, the branding you've gone for now too, I guess, is something that's probably another topic with the budgie smugglers and the fuck Craig Jones. We'll save that for the end, maybe.
Yeah, go in different directions.
yeah, that's a rabbit hole. So yeah, you probably, like, 2017 was definitely like a breakout performance in terms of competition. I mean, I remember watching it and that match against Leandro Lowe, right? We were kind of, with Team Australia, it was like, we kind of knew, but that was still a big victory that obviously would have opened up some doors. And then you won in the second round of that as well. But breakout performance, no doubt. And did that kind of then open more doors for you in America, where you were kind of accepted to places like Danaher's, or how did that kind of next step evolution then go from there?
That really just opened the door that meant I didn't have to teach regular classes to sort of live off jiu-jitsu. So it switched from where I'd get, like, I remember basically straight after that event, like, in my email was like it was probably every grappler's dream at the time, like sponsorship offers from every brand. Like, it was flooded with people asking for seminar opportunities. So based on that alone, I just took the risk after that and pretty much stopped teaching at Absolute St. Kilda. I would teach when I was back in town, but over time it became like I was back in town less and less, just because all the opportunities were in the States. So I would just live off the road. I remember I made horrible decisions after ADCC 2017. And because I'd made no money forever, I took every single seminar opportunity, and I still competed at the same time. So I remember, I think I did 76 or 77 seminars over the next 12 months. And I just kept using the seminars to prepare for competition. So we'd do the seminar and then I'd roll with everyone at the end. Terrible idea. That was like, obviously risk of injury, rolling a seminar.
Yeah.
Moving.
Yeah, that's definitely not as expected nowadays, that the person will roll with everyone. It's kind of, you hear the stories more of that happening. You know, the old school Hickson would line everyone up and run through everyone. But yeah,
there's a way to do it. There's a safe way to do it. I always tell people this, like, I'm always like, if I roll, like, what's the thing everyone's worried about at seminars? Like, if they do roll with everyone, the coach is always worried about getting submitted. But I have this strategy that when I run the gauntlet and roll with everyone, if someone in the room submits me, I'll let them submit me a couple more times, because I'm always like, if they go and say they submitted me, people are going to believe it one time, but maybe not 2 or 3 times. But I think I gave it to them. That's the trick.
That's some high level tips there.
Yeah.
So it's like, fool me once, but like twice, 3 times. That was, the fix was in.
That's how you protect the ego when you're tired and rolling.
High level ego protection. And so you were just on those competing, you're just going there, just rolling with whoever you can at these competitions to prepare. Sorry, with whoever at the seminars, keep yourself fit and prepare. And that was you doing for competitions. So were you doing the seminars then just weekends only, or, I mean, that's more than one seminar a week then, right? You did that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would do them whenever. Like, obviously sometimes it's hard to get seminars during the week, but I think some parts of America, they find it so hard to get people to come there to do seminars anyway, that they would take weekday seminars. I remember even in the UK was really good. I feel like those guys in Europe are real desperate to get people out for seminars. So I remember when I competed against Ďanaher in Grapple Fest, I think I did 18 seminars in 19 days. And the day off I had was the competition. So I was like, for basically 2.5 weeks straight, just seminar. But that's not a good idea either, because I also feel like the quality of the seminar deteriorates as you're just getting exhausted. Like, it's obviously, you would know, it sounds like a dream to teach seminars, but it is exhausting. You need to keep the energy up in between, I think.
Yeah. And so then that's probably a good idea then, though, to like the lessons that you learned from doing that many seminars in the time. One of the coaches back here, Justin, he was giving me advice of, it's good to do things like that, and you actually batch your mistakes. You can learn a lot from them at the same time. And so what would, you've done that year of just hardcore seminars teaching. What would you think are the details then to deliver a good seminar? And, the things to avoid then? What are you on the lookout for? And also, is your style, will you teach the same thing every time? Or will you mix it up?
I'll try to do it. I remember Braulio told me about this, and it really does work well. It's like, you might do a limited run of seminars. You don't necessarily need to advertise it, but just teach the same thing every seminar. It doesn't have to be like a whole year. Almost like, I feel like I try to do a seminar in like a tour. Almost like I did a proper tour recently, but I try to feel like I'll teach this sequence of techniques for the tour. And really by the end of that tour, I've heard all the questions people need to ask about the move when you teach it. So by the end of it, it's just a well-polished technique. And I basically, every time I teach it, I get less questions because I take into account the questions of previous seminars. But for me, it's really less is more. And what's funny is I feel like I almost consider it like a comedian that either has to win over the audience or the audience is there for them. You know what I mean? Like if you're a Joe Rogan fan, he's already won over his audience. So these days, as sort of my jiu-jitsu notoriety increased, people come to the seminar just to see me. But I felt like, say around 80-60 2017, when I was just taken off, they were there to see the technique. Now almost have a higher level of scrutiny, and they would care more about the quality of the technique, which is super strange because these days I feel like people just want to come, say hello, hang out, get a photo. So I try to adapt the seminar to that. And I feel like less technique, more focused technique, and then lots of time for Q&A at the end, lots of time for stories and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely changed over time what I think people expect out of me.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I've even felt that myself sometimes when looking at seminars that I want to go to. And I'm like an example might be there was like Kurt Osiander was was coming out here. And of course, like legends, been around forever. But really, I kind of want to go there. I don't really care what he's going to show, what he's going to teach. I want to hear his funny stories. Like I want to go there I want to get a photo with him still in the middle fingers I could catch myself like thinking that in my head before I book, like, oh, why am I going to do this seminars? And I think it's probably, it's got to be interesting on the other side when you're putting it on to be able to navigate that change in people's expectations where, maybe they want to go there and they want to see the fuck Craig Jones ratty on and,
Yeah, all the merchandise and stuff. That's how I plan to stay relevant. When I get old, they'll at least like the entertainment value.
That's it. And so you spent all that time then, doing those seminars, and then tell me about how you ended up falling in with the Danaher crew. I guess you're definitely part of their team now. Started off as rivals, I guess, and then they seem to be pretty accepting of allowing their rivals to come train. And then how did that happen that you decided that that's the place to be?
It's if you can't beat them, join them. Hey. It was basically after me and Gordon's second match. We had our match at ADCC 2017, and then we had another match at EBI 2017, the Absolutes. Obviously, that sort of infamous armbar moment. I still count that as a victory because he should have tapped. But after, it was a week after that we trained, which was funny because so we had our first match, we had our second match, and then exactly a week after the second match, we both had Kasai. And I had the Murillo Santana rematch, and he had the Yuri Somos match. And in the Kasai, it was like 4 or 5 different locker rooms at this particular venue they had. And it just so happened they put me by myself in the locker room with Danaher and all his guys, because there was Danaher guys on the undercard, like the whole Henzo crew basically. So I remember just walking in to the locker room after they took me there, and I walk in to the whole team that I competed against the previous weekend. I still remember Danaher being like, "Oh, you're in this locker room with us?" And it was kind of awkward for a second, but then it was really fun. I think at the time, actually, Mark Grayson, a local Sydney guy, had flown out to be in my corner for the event. So that was definitely useful and stuff in terms of warming up. But I also got to see how the DDS guys warm up and hear John telling stories and stuff like that in the back. But yeah, I remember at the time Gordon refused to admit his arm was injured. He was like, "Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine." He's like moving around. It had like a huge amount of swelling under here the following week. It took until I actually joined the team for him to admit how bad it was, and he couldn't train, I think, for like 3 weeks or something afterwards. But that's sort of what started the relationship. And I remember they said, "Oh, if you're still in New York, you should come in to train." And then from there on, I really just started showing up with more regularity. And which is strange because from being part of the team now, it's very strict about who can and who can't come, like in terms of who could join the team and not. Like there's been a lot of high-level grapplers that have asked to join the team and they've turned them down just based on weight divisions and stuff like that. But I think I had an into the team just because Danaher is from New Zealand and he loves people from that part of the world. He really appreciates anytime an Australian visits Henzo's, typically if John hears the accent, very, very welcoming. So I think that might have been the in for me to get in there because like looking back, we really had no formal conversation about joining the team. I just kept showing up whenever I had spare time in America.
Like the old George Costanza method of just show up until everyone assumes that you're on board, eh?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but I'm trying to remember how often I showed up for 2 or 3 mini camps, and then I showed up for I think 3 months for the Palhares match, and then I showed up for basically, yeah, I just kept showing up for longer and longer. I think it went from a week to 3 months to 6 months, and then officially moved to New York March. I actually moved to New York like March 1st, and then the COVID lockdowns hit like basically a week later. So it was a strange time to move to New York. But yeah, I really chose to join the team because I figure I'll go to wherever I get beaten up the worst, and going in there, basically my skill set was a knockoff of what they were doing. So to go see it at the source, I still remember getting beaten up by like Jason Rao, Nick Ronan. Like I thought I'd go in there and just get beaten up by like Gary and Gordon. But being beaten up by the low level guys really showed me sort of the holes I had in my game. And that's why I sort of stuck it out.
Yeah, I hear lots of great things about Jason Rao. That he's kind of flown under the radar a bit, and maybe getting out there a bit more. But you bring up a good point of then how your game, like, you said yourself that you felt your game was a bit of an imitation of theirs coming as you walk into there. Like, how did you go in there with the intent of then I'm just going to soak up everything that Danaher can give me? I'm just going to start adopting their system as much as possible and just fall under his instruction style? Or, how much room is there left for you to develop your own individual styles within there, or, your individual moves or individual expression of that?
Yeah, it's a real good question, because like, from what I understand about the team, for the most part, guys will have minor variations in style, but everyone really does the same underlying systems. Everyone's very, very similar, almost robot-like. And like the best time to see it is if you see John run the guys through a warm-up before a competition. John's telling them exactly what moves to hit. It's almost very, very robotic. Sometimes the guys will add on to the system with their own variations, which is good because of Gary and Gordon. It's probably like the yin and yang, the complete opposite style. So Gordon's like minimum risk, sort of like maximum efficiency. Gary's like maximum risk, you know what I mean? But impossible to pin, impossible to hang on to. So obviously their styles diverge, but really the underlying systems and stuff are all the same. So for me, it's just minor tweaks, but for the most part, everyone's doing the same thing. And that's why I think the team's so good. It's because, say we look at a team like Atos, say we look at Kainan Duarte and Lucas Barbosa, I couldn't think of two things those guys do the same. So when they compete, although they're part of a team to prepare, it's individuals facing other individuals. Whereas what I consider with Danaher's crew is everyone has the same system. So whenever one of us goes out and loses, provided we did the system and the system failed, then the whole team can adapt. Mm-hmm. For the most part, though, it's sort of like one of us will fail, like we'll mess up some part of it and get beaten in that sense. But I see it as a whole team actually working together to face other individuals. Because we have the same style, we can see where it fails and where it needs to be improved.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, I get exactly what you mean, where even that, by minimizing kind of the individual expression, it allows you to make any adaptations across the whole team much more efficient. And so I guess then, for like nowadays, it's kind of like a joke where everything is a system, right? Everyone's putting out a system. It doesn't matter what it is. It's got to be a system. And I'll be guilty of that at some point, and I think it's just the way it is. But for you, like coming in there, just like how you were training before in Australia, moving over there, all the other places you've seen, how different, like, how obvious is that systematic approach that Danaher's got? I
think it's just like, it's so different the way we train and everything, because like, say for example, every training session we'll always do a minimum of an hour of technique. Every session's like, and it's, if you watch a Danaher DVD or you go to a seminar, he might teach one move over 3 hours. But in the gym, it's going to be like, he'll teach a sequence very quick. We'll practice it, and then he'll add in other parts of that technique. So like in that sense, it's very similar to the way most people teach classes, but it's the competition guys all doing it. So what I see in other gyms is the coaches will teach these elaborate techniques and teach them to the up and coming guys, but it feels like as guys get more and more advanced, the amount of drilling they do decreases. Whereas we would never do a session without that. We wouldn't even do a session pre-competition day without practicing specific techniques. So we hit that, and then we always do positional sparring. Every time we always go mount, turtle, close guard, and then we might do start on a single leg. We might do start in cross ashi with the double leg control, maybe 50-50. But we always do those positions. And that's what I think a lot of high level teams don't do, because what they do, say you do IBJJF, the match is won or lost in guard passing and sweeping. So when they do their sparring, it's always like they might do first point drill or something, but very rarely these guys work bad position. And that's obviously why they're so scared to do an EBI rounds, because they never work bad positions. And I was the same. Like, I remember preparing for EBI, I spent very little time doing the bad positions. I was just under there. I was like, if I get to overtime, I'm probably going to lose. So let me just prepare to win this thing in regulation. Because I was like, regulation is where you get paid anyway. But we always do those positional rounds. And that's where I was let down entering the team for the first time, because I didn't have great mount escapes. I didn't have great turtle escapes. Even close guard was really a neglected position. So when a visitor comes into the team, they might be good at jiu-jitsu, but are they good at the whole package? So like if we take a visitor in and we put him in mount, turtle, close guard, and we don't even do any rest in between those rounds. So when there's no rest, you have to pace yourself. If you're used to escaping with explosiveness, you're just not going to survive the training session. So that's where I was really let down, because becoming as one of the better guys in the gym, you just very rarely get put in bad positions. Like when I was training mostly with Absolute St. Kilda, just like obviously Lachlan Giles would be tough. There'd be other tough guys in the gym, but I would spend very little time, if ever, under mount. So then you get put in mount in the training room with these elite level guys, and you can't escape. The other thing they do really, really well is, everyone always says this, don't finish a submission. You don't need to crank a submission in the training room. But for the most part, people do. So that means that guys are afraid to work their late stage defense. Whereas say Danaher, no one's allowed to finish an armbar. You're allowed to extend an arm, but you're not allowed to apply any hip pressure to the arm. So what that builds is your ability to, anytime you get put in an armbar, you don't just tap when the arm gets extended. You give a hitchhiker a shot. You try to sit up. You try to use movement to clear it. So that way we build those reactions. And we also build a reaction without fear. Because like Gordon was showing me about armbar escapes is, if I'm really tense and you break the grip and I'm resisting, you'll find my wrist every single time. But if you know the grip's going to break and you relax and you throw the wrist, it's very hard for the guy finishing the armbar to secure the wrist and get a finish. So we train those late stage escapes. Again, I haven't encountered any other team really do that. Those would be the key areas where I feel like the most growth for me.
Yeah, I really am interested in that, the idea of him not allowing people to finish arm bars, because I really enjoy like late stage escaping arm bars, hitchhiker, reverse hitchhiker, that type of, I love the look on people's faces when they think they got me dead to rights and I can get out of there. And I've taught those moves to, like white belts and people, and I can see them they're like, oh, and I'm never going to try that, like this is, and it's a hard thing to actually get them to build confidence,
I can, you know, we can put them in like situational things with the arm extended. But I know that it's still like for them to actually get the confidence to try it, it's going to take a lot. But you're saying that no one's tapping to arm bars there, is that, or no one's finishing them, is that?
Yeah, we just do not. There's never any arm injuries because it's like there's just you have that faith that if it's extended, they're not going to break it. It's just like everyone knows the philosophy. Like if you can't tap, make a guy submit and control him without applying braking pressure, you don't know how to really finish the submission. But we just take that to heart. Like everyone's heard that. How many people actually do it? You know what I mean? Typically what I see is people extend an arm in the gym. They look at the guy to tap. The guy doesn't tap. They apply hip pressure. Whereas really, if you can hold it for 3 seconds, you can break the arm. So that's where we have these elaborate sort of foot position to prevent these escapes. Whereas, like John says to us, the chances of you breaking someone's arm at the highest level without certain feet positions eliminating movement are pretty slim. You know what I mean? At the very high level, guys are going to take a few pops. So that just allows us to train those gray areas. Yeah, just things that you know, but it's so hard to implement in the training room.
Yeah, and I guess that's something too when you've got a group of professionals training full time that it's easier to kind of implement that in some ways, because I know that there could be like with, you know, the part-timers, they want to come in on a Wednesday night and get a tap in. They might not be, you know, the catch and release might not suit them. You know, they want that could be their victory in their moment. So that's probably, I guess, a benefit of the full time. It's very clear that you guys are there to make money, and this is going to be a better way to do that. So yeah, I really like that. Is there any other positions that they'll do the same kind of thing for?
I'm trying to think. Nothing as black and white, but basically just to control them so they cannot move before really even putting that submission position into a dangerous area. And I think that's where the guy's risk-taking confidence comes from. Because say, for example, you know your mount escape's terrible. You're going to be you're going to have a conservative game because you're going to be like, if I miss this sweep attempt and they pass, they're going to win. But for us to train all these bad positions, bad areas, we have more confidence in our escapes, which means we have more confidence in taking risks during the match. That's why I think with like a guy like Gary Tonin, he can take all these risks because his submission defense is like 10 out of 10. He's almost impossible to pin and hold down. And that's why I think Gary's style is so exciting. It's not that his style is exciting, it's that his submission defense and he can't be pinned is so tight that he's confident to take all these risks during the match because he has less to lose than the average competitor from taking those risks. I think that's built in the training room, the way we train.
Yeah, okay. And how much then do you find is tailored due to, you know, the emergence of sub-only rule sets and maybe a shift away from the IBJJF rule sets that's allowed that to happen? I mean, you put out I thought it was a funny video of taking shots at some of the IBJJF, but I saw some other people posting who were quite not happy with it. So
the Brazilians weren't happy because I said the secret from Brazil. They were like, you should have just said the secrets of Jiu-Jitsu.
Like, do you see, like, do you ever see yourself going back to the IBJJF, or, you know, if they're bringing in leg locks or something, or is it just going to be for, you know, the professional grappling? I mean, you've got a great setup with Submission Underground, it seems. And, you know, and is that just going to dictate what's going on in the training room?
Yeah, I mean, I personally I don't think I'm going to do IBJJF events. It's great they've added in heel hooks, but where I think they're let down is the way points are scored is, say, like a takedown is getting your opponent's butt to the floor. And I'm like, well, you should really have to pin them. You know what I mean? If we cut that scramble short and say that this is the point scoring position, then we're missing out on this whole range of things that can occur where the person is committing weight to you to try to pin you, which opens up other things. Whereas if they just have to put your butt to the floor, again, you've cut that scramble so short. So I think there are certain areas that IBJJF rule set that's still a big letdown. We train every day for 80cc rules, but if we have a competition with other rules coming up, then we just make the adjustment. But really, it's not a huge adjustment for me to go from 80cc style training to submission underground style training, because I just have to add in the overtime. For the most part, whether there's points or not, I'm going to have a very similar style. But again, IBJJF, the way the point scoring is done is just, I think it's too big a change. You know what I mean? To go from preventing yourself being pinned to preventing your butt touching the floor. So I don't think I'll jump in there. Maybe if I keep getting silver medals, I'll do Nogi Masters Worlds.
That's the back.
What is that?
It's a good backup plan.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, with submission underground then too, with the biggest thing that I've heard people like complain is that 5-minute time limit. Like, I think everyone kind of wants to see a bit longer on the board. Are you doing just strict 5-minute rounds in preparation for that, or how do you tailor yourself to those time limits?
All right. So, I mean, here's another thing that I didn't say about the training room is that, say we'll probably do 6 rounds, but we don't have a timer on the board. John calls time whenever he deems fit, right? So I think that's so important in the training room, because although it's good to see the time and play to the time, that's a skill set that's very easily adapted. That's a minor change. As long as you're mentally calm out there, you'll be able to adapt to the scoreboard. But what I notice is, say you do 6 rounds, probably the last 30, 20 seconds, the guys will look at the clock and they'll deem whether they can do any more jiu-jitsu. So that adds up over time. Whereas for us, we don't know when the round's going to end. That means we have to do jiu-jitsu the entire round, every round in the training room. So for us, that's like, it could even be up to 30 seconds to a minute. I know a lot of guys that if they get a good position and they see the clock, it's under a minute, they're just like, oh, I'm just going to hang out. I'm going to hang out here the rest of the round, maybe shoot some reckless sub off at the end. But for us, we do jiu-jitsu the whole round. So for submission underground, we'll just add in an extra round, and we'll actually put 5 minutes on the board, and John will say, you've got to use the most aggressive style possible. You know what I mean? Just chase this guy down for 5 minutes. But yeah, I hate the fact that it's 5. It should be at least 10. I think for submission only set, like it's got to be 10 minutes. I would be much more happy if submission underground just did fight to win style. It was like 10 minutes. Whoever was more aggressive gets the victory. I prefer that to EBI, especially EBI with 5 minutes. EBI with a 5-minute round is basically an overtime tournament. Yeah.
It's but the last 2 you've got the finish in that 5 minutes, so that's good. But yeah, when there's too many go to overtime, I still think EBI is probably the best way to finish that. I like to make to get that kind of submission finish. Probably think it still works better in that tournament format where you have to have someone moving through. But yeah, I think we'd all prefer 10 minutes if you can. But
yeah,
you seem to have some sway there, right? Your submission undergrounds. It seems like that's your spot now.
Yeah, no, I mean, not enough sway. Like I haven't really got a clear understanding of why they don't do it. It's something about the UFC Fight Pass saying we want this many matches and we want in this amount of time. This is your time allocated, which to me doesn't really make sense either, because it's not a TV show. You know what I mean? Like really, the event can go over. That's the only good thing about submission underground though, is like Quintet was like, it was a quick event. It's like 2 hours to see everything. Whereas some events, like I remember Kasai's run for 5 hours, like Fight to Win. I don't know if anyone would ever watch an entire Fight to Win because they last for hours. But yeah, there's something strange there where I think it's that they don't want to take away EBI overtime. They don't want to lose overtime to add in another 5 minutes. I was trying to convince him to do something crazy, whereas Chael Sonnen decides, he's like, if the first 5 minutes sucks, the match is over. But if they're having a good match, he's like, yeah, we'll extend it. There's got to be some move like that. Like if it's a boring match, you guys are out of here. You know what I mean?
I reckon you could convince him on doing like the Caesar says thumbs up or thumbs down, just like cut to Chael in his little bunker.
He would love that.
I think that could be a sell on there.
I want penalties. I tried to convince him. I said, guys, we're going to do 5 minutes, right? Here's how it works. If someone's inactive and they get a penalty, they lose an overtime round.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So like to incentivize action.
I would be for that because from what I'm watching with wrestling, especially like folk style wrestling, they give penalties so quick for inactivity. And I think that would really like it kind of like what Quintet was doing as well, right? Where they even stood Gordon up from mount for inactivity, which is like crazy in any other jiu-jitsu tournament, but Quintet can get away with it. But I think that, I mean, it works, right? It's like you better go for the finish, otherwise you could get stood up pretty quick.
That's how, I mean, really like there's like a spectrum of sports to sports entertainment. You know what I mean? I feel like Submission Underground lies very close to sports entertainment rather than sports. So they should have a lot of leeway to play with the rules. But for me, if the fans are paying to see the events, you should go out there and try to finish the other guy. Like, and that's where a lot of guys are let down today is like, and that's why I think a lot of guys don't make any money in jiu-jitsu is because they're so concerned about winning and winning by any means necessary that it's really almost such a selfish pursuit. And the fans don't care. You know what I mean? Like if you ask people out there, who are your favorite grapplers? It's really got nothing to do with accomplishments. It's got to do with how they compete. And it's not so much putting on a show. If you compete, as I think you should, to finish your opponent, it will be exciting. And you will be rewarded financially with sponsorships, fans, seminars, DVDs. You know what I mean? Like if you never finish any opponent, no one's ever going to buy your instructional. And I think people, I don't think you should just compete to make money, but I'm saying if you compete properly, you will, as a byproduct of that, make money. And I think it's true. Like if you look at the last ADCC, like who made the biggest impact? Lachlan Giles.
Yeah.
He got third. Lachlan has lost first round in his weight division 3 events in a row. And he's made more money off his instructionals than guys that have won multiple times. You know what I mean? So like, if you compete again, as I think you should, like to go out and dominate and finish rather than play the rules, you will be rewarded. And I think the fans will show how much they appreciate you basically with their wallets.
It's a good point. I am thinking that, I haven't seen anyone release an instructional of, system for winning by an advantage. But exactly. maybe that's a gap in the market. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Though it's just funny. It's like I mean, it's such a strange thing to say. Like it's like I mean, MMA fighters. I feel like those guys more or less fight for money rather than to be a complete martial artist. But they also pursue the finish because it does get them paid. You know what I mean? I feel like grappling could be a bigger sport if guys had a similar approach. And then you don't even need to go crazy with your self-marketing and stuff. You know what I mean? Some people's matches, like Roberto Jimenez, his matches speak for themselves. You know what I mean? That guy, he's going to go out, he's going to push forward, and he's going to attack his opponents, no matter who they are, no matter how big they are. And I think he gets rewarded for that with how many people are going to tune in to watch him compete. Yeah,
it's a very interesting change in mindset, I think, for you're leading of the professional grapplers who are putting up money for bet matches and things of that nature. And like we even had one of your friends, Isaac Michel, out here in Australia, he's a purple belt, but he was putting up, he was offering $1,000 just to try and get any black belt takers to get matches. And difficult. No one wants to do it because even though it's money, it's going to be a damn hard roll. And it's a different mentality too, from that old school of, no, get your ranking, climb your way up and do it that way. Whereas he knows he wants to make money in this sport and that's kind of the way to do it, right?
It's like, it's a confidence thing though, because like, say for example, I spoke to Henry Cejudo about this. It all comes down to self-belief, right? So Cejudo said to me, he's never trained harder than when he started the Triple C and started talking smack to people. And it's the same with Gordon. It's like, I feel like people only see the side of things where they're like, if an athlete talks shit, people are going to pay attention to him because either they'll support him or they'll want him to lose. And people think that the athlete does that specifically to make more money. But say, for example, if you talk shit about your opponent, you are going to train harder because now you have more to lose. So say if Isaac or someone does a bet match, as far as I know, I don't think Isaac's talking too much shit, but if you do a bet match, people see that self-confidence, but they also, for the athlete themselves, now they got to back it up, not just financially, because they're putting off this image that they have this confidence that they can get it done. So now you better train hard because you're going to lose money and lose face. So it's a way to guarantee that you're going to show up in the training room. I know that motivates Gordon. I feel like Gordon would quit the sport if everyone was just nice to him. So he wouldn't have the motivation to show up, but he's more motivated by proving people wrong. So he makes these statements that he's going to have to eat if he loses. And because he has to eat them, now he better get training, and he better get training very, very hard.
That's interesting. So is that what is it that does make him then so different from everyone else, it seems? Is it just that, is it his mentality or?
I think so. I think it's just it's the self-belief, but it's also, he's got enough self-belief to think he can do it different. You know what I mean? Like it's, he's confident enough in himself that he think he can play the game different and win. Whereas some people might have enough self-belief that they can emulate other styles and try to do them better. Gordon's got enough confidence to think he can technically do things different, do things better. You know what I mean? He can play the game better based on that self-belief technically. And that's the thing with him. There's no shortcuts. You know what I mean? Like, he is obviously huge and jacked, but he's as technical as he is physically imposing. And then obviously, so we've got the physique, you've got the technical ability, and you've also got the self-belief. So it's just the perfect storm there.
Yeah, and no doubt that's if you got all those, you're in good measure. And then, and I guess the other thing too is then falling under Danaher. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Chael Sonnen saying that he's probably the first person with like a full-time coach, whereas Danaher is Gordon Ryan's coach, and he is a professional athlete in that manner. Do you think that holds true? And do you see then too, John, is he your is he your full-time coach in the same way, or is that just between those guys?
No, for sure. Because it's almost like it gives you a myth to believe in. You know what I mean? Whereas because John can't roll and he never competed, and probably around the time he could have competed was when he had some crazy injuries. Like I think he's had his hip replaced and his knee replaced. So we have this guy that is obviously very well read in all martial arts aspects, like in judo, like wrestling. He's a historian in all these techniques. But we have this guy on the sidelines who watches us every single day and adapts the next day's class or the post-training sort of discussion to the shortcomings of our current training session or what we did well. You know what I mean? So the next day, we've got a guy that watched basically every single round, adapt the class on the fly to us. And we take everything he says as gospel, because say your coach is good, but you're also good enough to recognize areas based on rolling with him where he is not as good. So now immediately that coach role, sad to say, has been tarnished a little bit because you can see his shortcomings in the training session. Whereas we have this sort of myth because he can't roll, and we have the confidence in every technique he teaches. And we see the success of the techniques, obviously GSP initially, but then Gordon and Gary and stuff. So really it's it's like you have this myth to believe in. Like we give, like Taza said it to me. Taza's like, you give up the problem solving yourself to this other guy to have complete confidence in. But yeah, he is full-time coach, which no one else has. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Andre Galvão's, I've trained with him, he's an excellent coach, but he's an athlete himself. And being an athlete, you have to be selfish.
Yeah. That's fascinating, the idea then of that myth from him not rolling, because that is definitely like one of the things that would separate jiu-jitsu from, say, your traditional martial arts would be the instructors on the mat every day rolling with people. I know that, there'd be a lot of people who would, if you told them that your instructor didn't roll, obviously not mentioning that it's John Danaher and one of the tops of one of the most successful teams, but if you just had an instructor that didn't roll, it would be like a red flag warning sign to not go near that gym. In a way that the traditional martial arts probably did use it as a myth to then enforce or allow them to pass on suboptimal techniques, shall we say, or bullshido, might be the other way to put it. But that's how you get, no touch KOs or something like that, where no one can ever try it on the coach. And it builds that myth down a bad path. But in this case, you're getting the results in competition. So it's a myth that's allowed you to succeed.
Yeah, and also just think about it like, say, even you personally, when you watch competition footage or you watch people training, you learn things from watching them. Whereas John has probably one of the best training rooms in the world to watch train 6 rounds a day, every day. So he can see trends, he can see things that happen in the training room that we're all doing or all not doing, and obviously adapt on the fly. So it's like he has that raw footage to watch and analyze every single day. Whereas, again, other coaches have the ability to do it, but if you're training yourself, your energy levels to pursue it aren't going to be as great as someone who just gets to watch it every day. But what's mind-blowing to me is he can demonstrate every technique perfectly. He's obviously, every now and then he can only do things on a certain side because of his injuries. But I've never seen him drill these techniques, but he teaches them and shows the move perfectly. And I'm like, some of these techniques are things that he's just visualized in his head and then shown in the training room, which is mind-blowing to me, because if I think of something and try to teach it, I really have to put some practice into it.
Yeah, I was just thinking now, have you ever, has he ever invited you back to his house? Have you seen what goes on, or is that all just left to the mythical side of John Danaher?
Well, I think it's changed. It's changed over time, because I think traditionally no one ever went to his place. But I think the first guys to go to his house were the BJJ Fanatics guys, Zenga and Bernardo. They did an interview there, but it was an interview in his new apartment after getting the BJJ Fanatics money versus, I don't know if anyone went to his old one. I heard a story about Henzo trying to follow him home and actually see inside his apartment and stuff. But again, I don't know what's true and what's not true. I remember John's told us a story where he got kicked out of an apartment because a guy was playing loud music and the neighbors were angry and John choked him unconscious. John's got some crazy stories about that. The best stories are probably when he first moved to New York, and New York was a bit of a crazy place. But yeah, these days he's different. I know the guys have been around to his house. He talks about bringing us around for a barbecue and stuff. I think John today is very different to John even 5-10 years ago.
Sure. And I mean, that brings up something then with the myth, and is, he moving to Puerto Rico, and he's put the pictures up of him in the long sleeve, long pants. Is that man going to start rocking, can you make him a rash vest singlet or something? Can you get him into a pair of budgie smugglers? Is that the goal?
He keeps the same look, but he's changed the New Balance to Crocs. I was trying to find someone to pay to paint his Crocs into New Balance style, but I haven't found it yet. But it's the same image. Just got a fanny pack full of cash and knives.
It's the name of a rap song, I'm sure. Somewhere. So one thing, probably last thing touching on John that I want to discuss. One is probably, do you still read all his Instagram posts? Is that like recommended? Is that part of the team? You gotta read all the posts, or is that?
I don't read them too often. Obviously I read the ones he tags me or puts a picture of and stuff. But yeah, I think he just they're just good little snippets. You know what I mean? I think even someone's turned him into a book. Like a physical book.
Yeah, I saw that too. And the other is like his insistence on Japanese names, because especially as an Australian, you know, like one of my goals, I'm like, I want to learn a new language. I want to become fluent in Danaher. I want to be able to know, like, I want to get all my ashis and my katagatamis. I want to get it down this year. And, you know, so I start using that in the training room. And of course, everyone starts busting my chops, giving me slack. Like, oh, look, aren't you getting fancy, Sonny, over there with your names? Well, you know, how have you taken that?
Well, when I filmed my last instructional, luckily I had Placido there, he was fluid in Danaher. I'm picking up some parts of it, which I think is funny, is because people misinterpret why John does these things. You know what I mean? People will be like, oh, he's trying to sound smart and stuff. But then when you get to know him, he's actually just a crazy respectful historian. You know what I mean? Like whereas the average person might try to honor the past to look smarter, John obviously doesn't give a fuck how he looks. You know what I mean? He wears you know what I mean? Like with what he wears, he's not trying to appear any way other than what he is. So like, when he honors the past moves, he's just giving respect to Japan. Like quite often when a move already has a name in Japan, he just up and gives it that name. But there's like, say when we've come up with new positions recently, he'll give it a Western name. Like he'll call it S1 or S2 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I think he takes a lot of flack. People think he's trying to appear a certain way. But again, like if you look at how he dresses and stuff, he doesn't give a fuck what people think of him.
Sure. No doubt. No arguments with me on that. The thing I would think though with his insistence on the Japanese names is there any kind of passive aggressiveness to Brazil in not using anything in Portuguese names for, you know, he's skipping that, going straight back to Japan. Is there
maybe, but I think like it's funny. It's like, say this whole thing with now like all the Brazilians, like I remember I was just training with Gabriel Checo and he was bringing up about American Jiu-Jitsu. He's like how much they hate it. And he's like, they've just stolen it from Brazil. And I'm like, well, you guys stole it from Japan. You know what I mean? So if we go back far enough, everyone's stealing everything.
That's it. And I mean, the history I find fascinating myself. So, I mean, it is, I mean, it has revolutionized how people are training and competing and earning money in the sport as well. So that side of things, it's undeniable that he's put out the most comprehensive system in terms that is an actual proper system of anyone really. And then how do you then, like you're putting out your own instructionals and everything like that? I mean, you even put out, I saw a joke one where just stuff I stole from John and stuff I stole from John and Gordon or something done up in a mock BJJ fanatic style. How do you then find the ability to then, you know, market yourself and your own system and like take what he's giving you and then learn and adapt to be able to put something out?
Well, say for example, like, I had a lot of success with the first heel hook instructional I put out, because at the time John hadn't released anything. Obviously Lachlan's leg lock one came a couple years later after his 80cc success. But I knew that when I joined the DDS, because not everyone in the team does make instructionals, I knew perhaps I wouldn't be allowed to make an instructional. And I knew that would cut my earning potential, but I wanted to learn from who I consider the best grapplers in the world today. I wanted to learn their stuff so bad. I was willing to forego the financial dollars of making instructionals. Because really after 80cc 2017, I probably could have just done an Eddie Bravo and just lived off that moment. But I really wanted to ensure that it wasn't, not saying Eddie's was a fluke, but a lot of people thought I had a fluke of a weekend. So I really wanted to first prove that it wasn't, but I also just get better. And I was willing to sacrifice the money of instructionals to join the team. Because again, it is a lot of their techniques really that they've innovated. Obviously, it sounds silly to say their techniques because again, I guess they're the popularizer of a lot of these techniques. But I was willing to sacrifice that. But then again, after joining the team and still being successful and stuff, John encouraged me to still work with BJJ fanatics and make instructionals. But again, it's going to be a merge of things that I do and the addition of what they do. Like really, I might have certain techniques down, like because obviously the variations of triangles. I wasn't obviously fluent in all of those variations, but after training with a team, I was. So although it says my name on it, really, a lot of the DVDs will cover similar stuff, just slightly different interpretations.
Yeah, okay. So it is just still your kind of stamp on it then. And in terms of making BJJ fanatics, I got to ask, one of the most interesting ones that you were involved in was the filming of Kazushi Sakuraba's DVDs. Which I'm a big Sakuraba fan, talking about John Danaher being a mythical creature. For me, that's Sakuraba, where, you know, his in-ring accomplishments are just incredible. But then, like, yeah, I guess technically, though, I think he's kind of in a weird spot where he's certainly not out there saying that this is the most up-to-date stuff. Like, his YouTube channel is all just jokes pretty much of him, like he's just entertaining. So just take me through, I guess, before, you know, your takeaway, what that experience was like, how it came about, and yeah, what you enjoyed.
I'm trying to remember how it came about. I think me and Zenga from Fanatics are pretty close. So we've talked in the past about who would be cool to get on there. I remember we were joking even about doing an instructional with Karelin, by having me as the UK to get thrown around every technique. But we would talk about how big a fans we were of Sakuraba. And then I remember him saying like, oh, if I get the deal done, I'll bring you, we'll put you in the instructional. And then the philosophy was we'll put me and Bernardo in there because some people teach very shallow techniques, but when you ask them questions, the level of technique expands. So we were really under the idea that if me and Bernardo were in there, and we'll have it as if Sakuraba was teaching us a private lesson. Because Sakuraba, when he teaches the technique, it's like 30 seconds long. But then me and Bernardo would try to expand to give the audience the full scope of the technique. But yeah, it was very strange. A lot of strange techniques. Me and Bernardo kept, during the pressure point techniques, when he would show the technique, I'd be like, oh, can you show it on Bernardo? Because I wanted to see Bernardo suffer in pain. So some aspects of it became a bit of a joke, but really just hanging around Sakuraba was very interesting. He's very, very strange guy. He doesn't speak English very well, so we had to use his translator. But it was like just stuff like I remember asking him about why he started MMA, and he just said he was a professional wrestler. And other wrestlers started fighting and asked him if he would fight. And he's like, I didn't want to be a pussy. So I said, yeah, I would fight. That's literally how his career started. He's like, if they asked me, he's like, I wasn't going to be a pussy and back down. So I decided to do it. And then it was just Sakuraba telling us about how he overcame fear. You know what I mean? He would tell us that like whenever he was scared of an opponent, he would just run to the ring faster. He'd want it to be over with quicker. He's like, if I'm scared of an opponent, I'm going to rush to the ring. And then as soon as the bell goes, I'm going to rush to them. He's like, to overcome the fear, I just need to run at the problem. But yeah, I mean, brave guy, crazy guy with what he was able to achieve.
Crazy. And it's like even saying that he had fear. I mean, obviously he's human, of course. But I mean, the challenges that he did accomplish are like just, you know, mind-boggling. And so that's an insight. And with the pressure point techniques, do you feel like, cause I mean, part of him, it does seem that he is trolling people like 50% of the time, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that like he's just putting one over you guys at all, or?
It's hard to say where the joke comes in, because I think certain pressure points, it's like if you were to tickle someone, like they're going to be ticklish unless it's actually a life and death situation. And then they're probably not going to notice that stuff as much. So like when he applies pressure, it almost feels like it's a tickling type of pressure. Whereas in a relaxed environment, I'm going to react. But if it's in a roll, like say it's a competition, someone sticks their elbow into your leg to open your close guard, like you're not going to notice it in competition. In the training room, it's going to bother you. Sakuraba, though, very funny guy. I remember, I'm not allowed to release this video, but he obviously smokes a lot of cigarettes. But I remember him trying to explain to me with a packet of Marlboro Reds, as if that was the risk, how he broke Kenzo's elbow. He's got a packet of cigarettes and he's trying to explain the grips on a packet of cigarettes. But I remember when I was asking him a lot of questions about his lifestyle as an athlete. And I was like, did you smoke throughout your career? He's like, yes. He was like, but no more than 8 cigarettes a day. And then he would drink a lot throughout his career. He would tell me the track and field athletes in Japan are the only ones that don't smoke or drink. He's like, it's only those cardio athletes that don't do it. He also was drunk, right? So get this, before Quintet, the first one he was going to compete in, and he's like 50 years old, the scramble guys that ran our team, the Team Polaris, went out to have dinner with him the night before Quintet. And because he always drinks, they said, oh, do you want to have a drink? And he's like, no, not tonight. And they were like, is that because you're competing tomorrow? He's like, no, I'm hungover from yesterday. He said he drunk throughout his whole career. That was like, he would be smoking in the back locker room. He's like, I don't care.
And that's the crazy thing. It doesn't make sense that he's like, we're talking about being professional athletes, professional grapplers these days. It doesn't make sense how he was able to do what he did. Compete 90 minutes, then compete another 15 against, 90 against Hoist, and then come out again, compete another 15 against Igor Vovchanchyn. Like, that doesn't make sense how that's even possible for someone who's smoking and drinking.
Those were the glory days of MMA, because now, like, although you have personalities, everyone's an athlete. But back then, people were just fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, like, is that something that you see with the professional grappling, like we're talking about with Submission Underground and, like, the link between sports and sports entertainment? Is that something that you see a potential with going forward? Again, you've got the leopard print, look. Is that something that you're trying to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, just to have better marketing. You know what I mean? Probably the first proper influence I had in jiu-jitsu, like a lot of Australians in terms of competition jiu-jitsu, was Kit Dale. Kit was able to use humor to almost transcend jiu-jitsu. Like, he made funny clips and stuff that people outside of jiu-jitsu found entertaining. So I just saw Kit being able to differentiate himself from the rest of the jiu-jitsu athletes, and he actually got a lot of fans for it. I think that's what makes Australians almost special in the sport, is that you'll see Gary and Gordon, they'll make a lot of fun, a lot of jokes about other people and stuff, but I feel like the American sense of humor is less self-deprecating. And Brazilians, I don't know enough about the language to understand the humor at all, but to me it seems like it's a very serious, we'll fight, you know what I mean? We'll have a fist fight if there's any jokes, you know? So I see that pervasive in the sport, and I just want to keep it lighthearted. I can make jokes about other people, I think, if I still make fun of myself a lot of the time. But to me, it's indirectly marketing myself, but I'm just sort of trying to take the piss of the sport, because it's to me, it's very serious. And I'm like, at the end of the day, we're just wrestling other dudes. You know what I mean? We're not performing surgery here. Like, what is to be taken serious in this sport? It's just a game.
Yeah, that is, like, I think taking the piss is something that, like, is a kind of an Australian trait that we do kind of understand the merit of it, where, like, when I'm doing it myself, taking the piss out of people, it's like, hey, forgive me. That's how I was raised. That's what we do. Like, and even like personally with my friends, it's like, if they didn't take the piss out of me, I'd probably start to get worried that they're talking about me behind my back, you know?
Exactly. And it's funny because the egos in competition jiu-jitsu are reflected by the egos guys develop just running their own school. You know what I mean? Like, I always find there's like a transformation, especially when it's your school. Even when you see people that get given a teaching role, they get that little bit of power and it starts to make them a little strange. I remember there was a Scottish guy. I can't remember his last name, Dan. And I did a seminar tour with him straight after ADCC 2017. And he was telling me this thing he does with his students. Because he goes, no one will laugh more at your jokes than it's around grading time. So what he does is he'll go up in front of his class and he'll just say a terrible joke from time to time. And when if people laugh, he'll be like, what are you laughing at? This shit isn't funny. Stop kissing my ass. And he goes, that's how I keep myself in check in front of my own students. Because they'll boost the ego too much.
That sounds, yeah, I guess, yeah, that could work. It also sounds like it's also the trick of, leading them into the setup as well.
Yeah.
So do you see yourself then ever like opening up your own place or doing anything like that or is that just too far off?
No, for sure. Like I'll be 30 this year and my body's I already feel, obviously it's going to be worse every year, but I already feel like slightly more injuries, slightly more time to recover over things. I need maybe a few more days off especially because I'm the oldest guy on the team. Like I think like when I'm training with guys like Nicky Ryan's like, I think 19, Nicky Rod's 23, you know what I mean? Pretty young guys. But I do see myself moving back to Australia to open a team. But the goal is that I want to make enough money off instructionals and competing that when I do open a team, I'll open a team just for my own enjoyment. I don't have to run it. I don't have to make this huge money-making gym. You know what I mean? I want a gym that is going to like help local Aussies and stuff just through the experiences I've had, the connections I've made, to help sort of grow Australian jiu-jitsu. But again, not from I want to make as much money, I'm going to have the biggest school ever. I don't want to open a business like that because I feel like you have to put up with a lot in that sense. You know what I mean? Like a guy comes in and he's a bit of a dick. You sort of want to be like, oh, we can change this guy for the better. You know what I mean? When you think about the bottom line too much, I feel like sometimes you have to put up with certain students, whereas Danaher puts up with nothing. You know what I mean? Like, if there's no bullshit, there's like, this is how it is. You know, I don't want to be an authoritarian, but at the same time, I want to have the gym run a certain way to maximize people's growth and stuff and not be too concerned with the profit margins of the gym. I feel like it'll be a better environment for me and the guys rather than thinking of the big business model.
Yeah, I think that like it is, you know, probably a luxury to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like not to have to worry about that. The flip side I would say is that it's like if we do believe that there is the benefit in people doing jiu-jitsu, then we want to be able to get as many people to do it as possible as well. But that's of course you got that's a balancing act then of which side you're going to come down on. And I think obviously if you're a professional, there's pretty clear of which way you need to be looking at.
Yeah, I'll probably do it like John style. You know what I mean? Like you've got a gym within a gym. You know what I mean? Like John teaches classes that everyone's welcome to, but it's clearly tailored towards the upper echelon. But also the gym has other instructors that are going to tailor the classes to a different demographic. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that way it can still benefit everyone, but the people that want to reap those specific rewards can do so. That's why I think ģērbtuve sort of was crazy, because it'd be like a Monday morning class with like 100 people in there at like 7 a.m. It was meant to be 7 a.m., but it would start at like 7:45.
And so then I guess what would your any advice be then for Australians? You know, maybe you've got a younger Australian listening to this who wants to, you know, follow in the Craig Jones footsteps. How do they How do they go about doing it in terms of their development, their learning, with, you know, not maybe having that access directly to go overseas, especially not at the moment. You know, what kind of learning tips would you give people to accelerate them? Hey, I know you put out a recent video breakdown as well. You know, the breakdowns could be the way as well. But what would you say is a good way to go about things?
I would just say, like, just to compete in everything and aggressively chase everything, take every match. Like, I see guys get a tiny bit of success. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they'll get on an international show. They might not even win on an international super fight. And then they'll come back to Australia and be like, I won't take that match. I won't do that tournament. They're like, I feel like I'm above that now. And even people in America, even Americans I'll see, they'll be worried about taking what they deem a match below their level. And to me, I'm like, it's all amateur until it's on BJJ Heroes. No one cares about who beat me before ADCC 2017. The only person that cared was me. You know what I mean? Like, if someone today were to brag about beating me prior to then, they look a bit silly because it's like, oh, well, that's a different. They divide my career into 2 points, before and after that point. So I would say for all the up and comers, do as much as you can, get as much experience as you can to be better prepared for when you do have that moment. And like, the assumption would be that if you do all the preparation and train properly, make the sacrifices, if you stick in it long enough, you will have that moment. So don't protect what you don't already have yet. You know what I mean? Like, I see that the biggest detriment with competitors. Like, even some of my friends in Australia will be like, no, I won't compete against them. And I'm like, all right, if you're better than them, go out and show that you're better than them. And that's marketing in and of itself. You know what I mean? But I think people are scared to lose what they only they think they have.
Yeah, especially with the nature of video on the internet nowadays, is you want like nothing better than to get a submission on video that you can show people, I guess.
Exactly. Like, a good guy for doing this is, you know, Robert Deagle.
Yes.
So Deagle, I mean, by all accounts, like, hopefully he doesn't take offense to this, but he hasn't won anything major. He has beaten good guys, but I would say a guy like that is someone to watch. Deagle's always competing. He's always analyzing his footage. He's always putting it out there on the internet. He's always marketing himself in a way to show off how technical he is. I think a lot of people got to learn from a guy like that's marketing model, because Deagle sells instructional products and does well. He's marketed himself in a certain way. Obviously, he did have the attachment to the Henzo crew and the Danaher crew. But I would look at a guy like that for inspiration if you want to, like, it always keeps coming back to money. But I mean, for you to survive in the sport, you have to make money. You can't, like, it's going to be better if you can make money and just train rather than teach and train. Like, to me, obviously, you work a full-time job or you work a part-time job to chase your jiu-jitsu goals. You hit a certain point where someone wants you to teach classes, so now all your money's made within jiu-jitsu. Maybe you even hit a point where you just have to teach a few privates. But once you make enough money, that's when you can really start selfishly focusing on competition goals. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I always come back to money, but you need it to...
No, I think that's kind of good area to focus in, to have been focusing in with you, because it is, I guess, probably where your mind is at the moment of how you can, you know, do this sport professionally. And it's been great to get that kind of insight into it. And yeah, Robert, great example. I have spoken to him before, and when he got a submission over Sean O'Malley, that, you know, went gangbusters because Sean's doing, well in the UFC. He's got his name, and he only got those opportunities for entering in all these tournaments. And I guess finishing off, one last question, because when this one happened, I talked about it with everyone, which was your match with Vinny Magalhães, where you contorted his leg at strange angles, and it snapped and did all sorts of nasty things. And I mean, at the time, everyone, that was all we were talking about. And I just want to get, like, what happened? Like, how how did things end up at that point where you've got someone's leg literally bent round in the other direction and you're having a chat with them in a cage in somewhere in America? Is your leg all right, mate? Like, what was going on?
Well, I mean, that's the flip side of what I was talking about with Gordon Ryan talking shit and having confidence to back it up. You know what I mean? Like, where Vinny's marketed himself as basically unbreakable. If you're going to market yourself that way and you get put in a breaking point, you're probably going to have to let it break. So I would be careful the angle at which you try to sell. But I guess Vinny's, a Brazilian with a good sense of humor. You know, like, for me, like, I saw him making those jokes. And it is a joke, really. Like, obviously he knows he can be broken, but it was just the angle. It was the corner he backed himself into. But it was a strange setup for the match because it was like, I believe it was the only sporting event on in the entire world. Chael Sonnen was the only one brave enough to actually do anything in terms of sport during the outbreak. During the early days when people didn't really understand how dangerous it was or how dangerous it could be. But yeah, we did this event in a barn about an hour outside of Portland. So obviously Chael's from Oregon, so we were like out in the Oregon country at a random location we weren't allowed to give out, at a hotel they told us not to announce to anyone. And Vinny was down to do it. Me and Vinny both felt bad because we had the tag team debacle, which was like, I was sick, so I was trying not to compete and make Nicky Rod do everything. Vinny played a real weird game where he didn't engage Nicky Rod, and then Kyle Bain won in overtime, and then everyone hated it. Obviously, even us as competitors, we thought it was silly. Like, I tried to give Chael the money back after the event. I'm like, I didn't do anything, man. Take the money back. So then Chael wanted me and Vinny to compete, so we sort of were like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll jump back in to sort of try to make amends because Chael is a really good guy. So that's how the match sort of happened. We both probably were unprepared because of the COVID circumstances, but we jumped in anyway, sort of to make amends for what happened with that previous show. And again, Vinny was sort of talking a little shit before the match. He's like, he's not going to submit me. He's definitely not going to leg lock me. And I know Gary and Gordon both had Vinny in some heel hooks. I think Gary's were probably worse. I know Vinny's leg was popping, Gary told me during that match. And the only doubt I had before the match was like, well, maybe this guy really is this flexible, you know, but then you have to talk yourself down. You're like, everyone's leg can break. You know what I mean? So it was really a confidence test for me to see how it would break. And given the flexibility of his knee and ankle ligaments, it just so happened to be his fibula that snapped. I think his fibula snapped and his entire ankle disconnected from the base of the leg. But he had no panic reaction, no reaction. The first time it broke, I didn't know it broke. I heard a pop, and then we looked at each other, and he didn't react. And I gave him props. I gave him a fist bump. I was like, damn, you are like that flexible. But then leading up to the second time I grabbed it, he was like, oh, I think you broke my leg. And I was like looking at it. It was messed up. I was even confused what to do at the moment because really I should have just stood up.
Yeah.
And then he would have had to walk on. In the heat, didn't really understand what to do. So we continued the match and I went straight back for the same leg.
What else are you going to do? I guess that's, it's the name of the sport.
I thought he started after I ripped on it a second time, he started asking the ref, how much time's left? Because you don't know.
That's right.
Underground. And I remember thinking, God damn, this guy's crazy. He just wants it to be over and go to overtime, try to win in overtime. But it actually told me afterwards he was asking the ref because he wanted to survive the 5 and then retire before overtime.
Sure.
Yeah. He's nuts, man. He's crazy.
And it is then a good way to wrap it up where you do have to be careful with that, with the shit talk or the marketing angle that you might put yourself in when, the leg locks don't work. Well, they do.
Yeah, careful what you say before a match.
Yeah. And I think that's probably an interesting place to wrap things up. So, Craig, look, mate, I really appreciate you giving me your time. I know you've had a busy year competing, which is pretty incredible considering all those restrictions that have been going on around that you have been able. I think for sure you're the most active out of the Danaher group.
I think so. Not necessarily by their choice. I think I just got lucky that obviously Chael Sonnen's Chael Sonnen. He just doesn't give a fuck what's happening.
Yeah. So yeah, great year. And yeah, if you've got the new DVD out, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can go about doing that?
Probably Instagram, just Craig Jones BJJ. Best way to see what I'm up to. It's mostly jokes, but you'll see some jiu-jitsu in there.
And is there any more breakdowns in the pipeline for the YouTube channel?
Oh, I got to get back into it. I bought that new iMac to do a lot more video editing and stuff, but obviously just with the move, getting everything ready. But yeah, I'm going to be trying to put out as many breakdowns, try and sneak out some of the DDS secrets in those videos. The secrets.
So there you go. Well, look, mate, thanks so much. I better run. I'm actually going to be training tomorrow morning with one of your old coaches, Tiago Ferreira. Is that?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. He lets us know some, when he used to know a small Craig Jones.
Oh, when we used to take us out drinking together.
Oh, I'll bring that one up. Don't worry. Yeah. He corrupted the man.
Definitely.
All right, mate. I really appreciate it, and you have a great day.
You too, bro. Catch ya.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the Sonny Brown Breakdown. Until next time, you can visit sonnybrown.net to find out more ways to break it down.